Hello, welcome to another high poly section of this video tutorial series on making this turret. In this one we're going to be making the ammo drum and its caddy. This is going to start with a cylinder and we're going to just position this into place and rotate it 30 degrees. I don't know if you remember, but the angle at the back of the main body is 30 degrees as well, so it'll match up nicely with that. And we're just going to essentially be blocking this out at the moment, trying to get the positioning correct and the proportions correct. And you'll notice I'm doing this in side view, just so that I can check where it is in relation to the body. I'm going to reuse some of the geometry from the central bracket because it's already the correct width for the middle part. And then I'm just going to duplicate it around to make a box to block out the gun body shape. So just going to deselect and reselect that vert and then snap that piece down there. Duplicate it across on the x-axis, flip the face, and do the same for the bottom of the box. Flip the face again so it's on the outside. Merge all those verts by distances and then just cap the ends to make this box. Possibly could have done it quicker just adding a box, but wanted to make sure it was perfectly square around the sides at least. I'm going to make this the same height as the center of the main pivot for the whole gun. Now I'm just going to work the move the faces around to create the basic shape that I want the whole gun to fit within. I want it to come slightly more forward than the front of the bracket. Apart from cutting away with a few booleans, I won't be modelling the gun in this part. That'll be in the next part of the video. I'm trying to keep them roughly 30 minutes long for each one. So with the cylinder that we've got in place, we can add a loop cut around the middle. And we're just working in, because we're working at angles, without applying the scale to this cylinder, we can just keep using the local z-axis. It does make things a lot easier, but there are ways around that if you do apply the scale for any reason. For example, you can use the 3D cursor and snap it to one of these faces, and then use the 3D cursor as the pivot point. So I'm just using a duplicate of the barrel to make a boolean to cut away from the body of the gun. Because what I want this to do is I want it to be like an ammo drum slotting into position within a bracket behind the gun, so that they kind of level up, so that there'll be a bullet feeder shape of some sort that connects both parts together. But essentially it will just look like you slot a new barrel full of bullets into this bracket at the back and the gun is good to go. Just adding in another cube, getting it at 30 degree angle, and then using that to boolean away just a corner section of the back of that gun. Just using the brush boolean and excluding the x-axis, we can just with Shift X we can just move that just to cut away part of that. It's good to do things with the big shapes in mind first of all, because you can get the proportions right and you can figure out the positioning in case you need to change anything. So I've just duplicated and separated this ring of faces on the barrel, and I'm using that to make the bracket it's going to sit in. So I'm going to bridge these faces across. Okay, and then with the barrel, I'm actually going to shrink that slightly on its local X and Y. So just Shift Z to exclude the local Z axis. And I just want it to sit slightly inside, just so you can see that it's not connected, it's not part of the same thing. There'll be material separation on top of that anyway. I need to readjust the boolean that cuts through the gun body though, because it's made from the larger barrel. So I'm just deleting the boolean and remaking that cutter from the existing barrel. And as you can see, it cuts not quite as far back, so I'm just going to adjust to the back of this cube. That's going to be the gun body, just so that curved part cuts away a bit higher up. Delete the original cutter, and then I need to adjust the square cutter a bit as well. Just pull that out. Okay, just going to hide the cutters again, just because we don't need to see them at the moment. Excuse me. Just having to think about what to do with this next. I don't actually need to do that. If I had a loop cut around the middle and bevel that, I want this to extrude inwards somewhere towards the gun and create a bracket that's kind of hanging down from underneath that holds the drum. Just going to go into X-ray mode. And yeah, I'm just going to deselect a portion of these faces. Just make sure I'm in face mode so I don't get any random edges selected. That's it. Just going to extrude that inwards. And I want a fair bit to work with because I'm going to use some booleans to cut the end of that part so it's flat, so that I can get it to extrude nicely on the vertical axis. Just going to align straighten with these faces, with these verts. Shortest path select. And then I'm just going to use a cube to basically cut the end part of that bracket off. And you'll see as I move that closer, it just shaves off that end part. And then I need to chop a little bit off the top as well, just so it can go up and around the main body of the thing, the main body of the gun. I do apologise, it's been taking quite a while to get these videos out, a lot longer than I thought, and I didn't realise there'd be so many for the high poly video either. I thought they'd be done a lot quicker. I'm trying to stay true to not time-lapsing any of the videos after those first few though, just so you can actually see what I'm doing, the whole process. Although I am aware it does make for slightly boring videos sometimes, because a lot of the workflow that I use is the same. It's getting the form right and then adjusting things and fine-tuning things. once I've done with the high poly, I'll be going straight onto the low poly and then unwrapping. I think the low poly doesn't take anywhere near as long as all this. A lot of this is finding those small details that you want to add to make it stand out and look cool. So just extruding that top part up. And just checking we haven't got any extra verts. And I'm just going to add an extra loop cut here because I want to widen this part that goes up and around the gun. I want it to make it as basically as wide as the bracket that it's sitting in. If you've watched my video on snapping, you'll know I basically use active as the main component when snapping. I usually have it on, leave it on vertex and snap and active element. And just to reiterate, I'm also using Blender 3.3.1. They are churning out versions of Blender quite quick now, so I've not used any of the newer ones. Just in case any of this stuff doesn't work in newer versions or there's a completely different way of doing it. I'll get around to doing all that at some point. It's just, there's no real need a lot of the time to update to the latest version if the version you're currently using is still doing everything you need it to. Just fixing up the topology on this bracket and the lines that go around the middle. Most of them are not needed, to be honest, but I'll leave them in for the time being, just so I can, just while I refine the shape and get it looking exactly how I want. And I just want to make this a bit thicker because it's quite a large bracket and it's got quite a large, heavy ammo box to hold. So it needs to look sturdy. But I want it to be equal on both sides. So just going to scale that on the y-axis. That should do okay. And just adding in this loop cut so that basically I'm going to snap a cube into place to boolean out a hole in the middle of this bracket. Just going to line this up with that loop cut we added and then scale it into place. I'm not worried about it being the same thickness on the sides as the top and bottom for this. If I was, I would have just used the faces on the bracket itself and then just inset them and then used that to create a cutter. I think with 3D there's always lots of different ways of achieving the same result. That just kind of depends what you're going for. So use that as a difference boolean to take it away. And then with the cutter, I think I'm going to bevel the corners. So just double click that and then ring select. Just add some loop cuts, add some loops to these bevels. Yeah, just round them out. That 6 is fine. Just shade auto smooth just so you don't get any shading errors on the other part. So I'm just going to duplicate the whole bracket now. And use that as a difference boolean from the main part. Oh, I think I may need to just undo that a second. Just checking what I've actually got boolean from what here. Just make sure all the faces are calculated outside. It's only cutting about halfway up for some reason. So I'm just going to undo that. Might be because of the topology, I'm not sure. All the faces are facing outwards, which is good. That's what we need. Just having a think about what's causing this. I think what it is, I need to extend these side parts further out because they're currently flush with the side of the box, and probably the same for the top as well. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I'll move these out just away from the body and then difference it. Should get the right result. That's better. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm not worrying about the topology for the moment. I'm going to fix that up later on. You don't always have to fix up the topology, but it makes life a lot easier for, especially for the low poly. The low poly is so quick in comparison to these videos for the high poly. Just going to have this part raised up just so you can actually see the bevel of that part underneath. I quite like that idea. Just going to add a loop cut around here. It won't just add it because I haven't fixed up the topology in the corners yet, but for now that's not necessary. Okay, and then I'm just going to inset that loop of faces around that middle part, and then just squeeze them together on the y-axis. Just turn off proportional editing. I accidentally toggled that on. And I just want to bevel these these outer corners as well. And just merge verts just to check there's nothing duplicated or overlapping anywhere. Okay, moving on, we need to continue detailing this bracket and building it out. So it needs something basically going underneath the bottom of it to hold the barrel, to stop it just sliding all the way through. So just going to extrude this part down. And you'll notice in the side view, I'm bearing in mind, do you see the angle of the base underneath? I want to make sure I don't go past that, because I want it to have the clearance. If you think of this thing rotating around, I don't want the bracket to be cutting through the base. Just adding a cut through there. Because the whole barrel is 30 degrees one way, that will cut through it 30 degrees as well with the knife tool. Just going to mirror that across. And bridge the faces. I think actually it's looking a little bit narrow, so what I might do is, if I delete all that, refill those faces, I think if I grab 4 instead of 2 and extrude that down, that's a bit better. It looks a bit more sturdy, bit more like the width of the upper part then. Just going to mirror that across, select the 4 faces here and bridge them across. And now we're getting somewhere. Bevel loop cut in the middle of here, and then as we did before with the part at the top of the bracket, I'm going to inset that and then scale it down slightly. So we'll be scaling this, I think it's on the local Y. Yeah. Again, because we've not applied the rotation on the barrel or the bracket, it's still going to be using local. It's still got local coordinates available to it. You can press say you press the Z key twice, you can go between weld Z coordinates or local coordinates. And you can, as I said before, you can still do that if you use the cursor. You can basically make anything the reference point for the coordinate system that you want to use. Just want the bottom part of that bracket to just look like it lifts up and supports the barrel as it hits it. That's why I've raised that part up. I'm just going to merge all these verts into the corner because I want to basically chamfer that bottom corner. So that's going to loop all the way around. Bevel that. Chamfer that, sorry. Just mirror that over. Before I chamfer that corner, I just want to set up the curvature for the bottom of the barrel itself. So I'm going to do both sides at the same time. There's a lot of different things you can do to detail the barrel. Various slices or cuts just to make it look like there's a lid component and a body component. or different panels. The cylinders are really easy to add panel details to, because you can just have them floating over the top and then project them with a normal map. So I'm just going to move this down, and you see I'm moving both at once because I went into edit mode for both objects and just selected those verts. And it's because I want like I said before, I want the bracket to just have that little bit of clearance over the angle on the base there. Then I'm going to move the barrel down within the bracket, and just to be precise, I'm going to snap it to the raised up part of the bracket. There we go, perfect. Now on the bracket we can chamfer those corners. Definitely prefer it as a chamfer than a bevel. And then just mirror that across and apply the mirror. You can extend the barrel a bit. I want it to look more, just slightly more longer than its diameter. That looks a bit better. Now I'm just going to inset the lid and move it down on the local Z. You see, as soon as the auto smooth catches, it'll pop into different shading. I just want to look around the model now and see what other details we need to add to this barrel. It probably needs some sort of handle, because I imagine it would be quite heavy if it's full of bullets. So you're going to need something quite sturdy to lift the thing in and out of this bracket. So we're going to use the cube to add a handle to the top. Just rotated the cube in 30 degrees as well, and then moved it in, snapped it into place on local Y, so it's currently sitting in the center of this cylinder. Scaling it in X-axis. And just thinking about what I want the handle to actually look like. I think if I scale this on the X-axis, and then if I grow this, invert the selection and delete the bottom face, and just adjust its position, sorry, and then delete it. Delete those two, select those two faces, and then I can inset them, and if I press B it won't do the border where I've deleted the bottom face, so I can adjust the thickness of the handle. Then I can bridge those faces across, and I've just got that extra face there that needs deleting. And that's fine, just intersecting the barrel for now. As with the bracket, I might just add a slightly narrower section to the middle of the handle, just so it pops a little bit with the auto smooth angle. Just makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, on the bracket, I want some. On the barrel, I want some details on the side. So I'm just going to select both those loops, bevel them with one segment. fine tune the size of it. And then if I just select those middle loops and scale them in on the local Z, till it pops with the, again with the auto smooth. So select the correct angle to exclude those. And it just kind of makes it look like there's a couple of panel lines around the side, and I might have some decals going around that part as well. Just going to add another cut to the gun body at 30-degree angle. But I just want this one to just clip the top slightly. Excuse me. Okay, around the middle of the bracket down here, it's holding the barrel. Just going to use the checker deselect. I want it to select 2, skip 1. Maybe if I just offset it a little bit. I want to get it roughly even on both sides. And then if I deselect those ones, because I don't want it near that part. And then I can inset those. And just have them indented slightly inwards. And that just give a nice pattern for the normal map on that piece. It's nothing crazy, just a very simple pattern. Okay. In the next part, we'll be refining the shape of the gun body, adding in the barrels and any further details we want on that. When we come to do the low poly, we'll fix up what lines we need going around this model, because we won't need most of these. For now, I'm just fixing them up, just in case I decide to do anything extra with this. Quite like the idea just on the back of this, just having a little raised up part as well. Just enough that the shading breaks, just as a kind of little thing that helps guide the barrel in. Okay, that's it for this part. I'll see you in the next part.